Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. We are here with Bethany Baker, and she is going to give us a workshop on how to use our voice effectively. She's going to take us through a foundation level on the reason why we sing. We're going to be blessed with Bethany's talents and her knowledge, and she's going to just introduce herself and tell us a little bit about what she does and why she does it.
Okay, so start from most recent events. I've had an undergraduate degree in music, culture, communications, and then my master's was in critical and applied musicology. So throughout that time, I've had a lot of training, both classically and jazz training. So I've learned a lot of skills to be able to improve my own music practice, both in church and outside of church, and giving me new experiences in how to use my voice. And I'm just grateful to be able to share some of what I have learned.
And we're looking forward to hearing more.
Okay, so I'll just start with a prayer.
Yep.
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to share some of what I've learned over the years. I pray that everything that I say will be clear and concise, and that everybody will be encouraged to be able to use their voices more effectively for you and enjoy it at the same time. All these things I ask in your holy and precious name. Amen.
Amen. I'd encourage everyone to get themselves a piece of paper and a pen so they can write down some notes, because she has a wealth of knowledge to share.
Let's get into it. It's your voice, use it. So I guess everybody does use their voice every day, just talking, but it's about the understanding of how and why we should use our voice, specifically through singing. I'm going to try and help you understand that a little bit more as we go through. So the big question is why? Why would you even want to consider singing at all? You might have had a little bit of experience maybe singing in church, but you never really considered singing to be something that you would actively pursue or maybe want training in. But basically, as it says, God said so. There's numerous scriptures in the Bible that kind of outline why we should sing, and the fact that there's over 300 plus scriptures basically telling us to sing should be enough of a reason to make you more interested in knowing how to use your voice more efficiently, and also the health benefits that you can get from singing as well. So here's a few more broken down reasons as to why you should sing. Essentially, as I said, you're glorifying God when you sing, because it is something that is inbuilt within you, and you should feel like you have the ability to glorify God through your voice, which is intrinsic. Everybody has a sound, and it might not be a natural talent, but it's something that you have the opportunity to use. And if you can find further training to help you use it more efficiently, then I would recommend it, because it just makes the whole gift that God's given you so much better, and you enjoy it even more when you know that you're doing it the way you're supposed to. So with the enjoyment, it releases oxytocin, which is a hormone that gives you that happy feeling. Oxytocin is good for reducing feelings of loneliness and depression. It helps deal with anxiety and stress, particularly when you sing with other people. The support of other people around you doing the same thing is just encouragement in itself. Singing as your war cry. The two passages that I've put there just kind of demonstrate the power of music when you use it, or when it is used by God in situations that you ordinarily wouldn't have the power to control. When God is using you through your music, there's no telling what you will be able to do. With communication, you might find that if somebody's going through something, you might not have the right words to say. But I know for myself, if I have the opportunity to share a song that I know will touch somebody's heart, I'd rather do that than actually try and have a conversation. I feel like music breaks the barrier down if somebody's feeling quite reserved. I know for myself, if I'm not feeling great, I'd rather hear a piece of music that will get me in a space where I'm ready to speak to somebody else than to have somebody talk at me and feel uncomfortable. Music just has the power to open up the emotions in ways that words can't always do. And lastly, music helps you remember and meditate on God's words. There are a lot of studies out there that basically highlight the fact that music is very influential in helping with cognition and just remembering things in general. I know that when I was growing up, learning languages, I can still remember French days of the week and German, and the German alphabet, just because I remember the songs. And it's something that I've learned over 10 years ago, but I can remember word for word exactly what I was taught. Similarly with learning Bible texts, I don't always find it easy to remember a passage of scripture, but I remember a song that has that passage of scripture in much easier than having read it and trying to recite it with no music. And that just goes to show you the power of how music can help you with your memory. And I would highly encourage that people go and look at the studies. There's so many videos on YouTube, different articles that do give you the information and the, I guess, the experience of other people, so you can actually see what kind of transformation music has in people's lives. And nobody is too old to try to sing. It's all about being willing at the end of the day. The reason that we have musical training or vocal training specifically is because it helps you to improve the longevity of your voice. We use it every day. We're born with our voices and we use them all the way until we die. So you want to find a way that will help you preserve the life of your voice. You don't want to cause any damage because you have to use your voice every day. So training helps you reduce the damage, helps you improve the longevity, and it helps you find your full potential in singing. And even just with your speaking voice as well. You might already know how to stay in tune, but you might not have the right tools to be able to do it more efficiently and be able to convey the messages that you might want to. Especially in song, when you're doing a special item, you want to be able to connect with the people that you're singing to and share the message that God has given you ultimately. Okay, so the first activity we're going to do is helping you find your larynx. So if everybody just puts their hands on their throat, you can feel that there are some ridges like right in the middle of your throat. And this area is called the larynx, all of this section here. And it's made up of 9 different parts of cartilage, some muscles and joints and ligaments. And it's also known as the voice box. This is more the common name for it. And right in the middle, the biggest lump you can feel is called the Adam's apple. I think men tend to have it more predominant, but it's in the women as well. And that's right behind that area is where your vocal folds are. And it's also called the vocal cords. That's what the name is. So that's what I'll use for the duration of the presentation. But right behind here is where those vocal cords are. And they, when you look at a picture, typically it looks like it's looking up, but they actually are flat. And they're connected at the very front, right behind the Adam's apple, and they open and close at the back. So on this little diagram here, you can see what it would look like on the left. If you were to just peel back the skin, you can see the cartilage there with the thyroid cartilage, and then you can see where the muscles join and how they kind of create the whole structure of the larynx. And at the very top of the structure, you can see the epiglottis. And this is the part that basically protects the larynx from any food or drinks, things that can get stuck in your throat. So often when you are choking on food, the epiglottis is what is causing that reaction, because you're basically trying to close over the larynx before the food passes through. Now, sometimes if that doesn't happen, that's when you choke. So you can get things like food stuck in just above the epiglottis, and then you have to have the Heimlich maneuver done, because it won't open naturally, and you have to use quite a bit of force to be able to open that area up again to be able to dislodge and help you breathe, essentially. So it's always a good idea to eat slowly and chew to a sufficient amount so that you don't have that happen. And then on the right side, you can see the inside if it was cut in half. Right in the middle, as I said, you can see the true vocal cords, and then just above those are the false vocal cords. And I'll go through that a little bit later. But the true vocal cords are the parts that actually make the sound. They're the parts that you will commonly use unless you've got a gravelly voice, which is what the false vocal cords will do, give you a bit of a raspiness. But that's what happens when the air passes through. The true vocal cords will create the majority of the sound, whilst the false vocal cords have that kind of raspy effect. And we've got a little video to be able to show you what happens in kind of a better detail. So you can see the inside of the larynx connected to the tongue right in the middle. And so you can see on this diagram exactly how the vocal cords work. When the air passes through, they start to spread apart. But then when air passes through and you're talking or whispering, that's when they start to come together. So every time you speak, the vocal cords are coming together in some kind of way. When you're singing is when they start to vibrate, because you're getting a lot more air through, you're pushing a lot more air through, so there's more force behind it and more power behind it. When you sing high, the vocal cords stretch and they get thinner. And when you sing lower, they start to thicken and they get smaller, they get shorter. So just show how that works. And sometimes you can actually feel the strain if you're not doing it properly. But that's just a visual demonstration of how the voice works. I'll play it again. I'll try to explain a bit more about the false vocal cords. I've just seen a question about that. Okay, so so the false vocal cords, that's the question. You can't see them again in this video, but basically they sit on top of the true vocal cords, and the purpose of them is to basically add more of a stylistic approach to singing. So with the true vocal cords, they're the ones that create the sound. With the false vocal cords, you can get, I think you can hear it in my voice now, like the raspiness. That means that the false vocal cords are coming together in a way that kind of interrupts the sound. So you'll get some people that are hoarse, smokers primarily. That means that their false vocal cords are constantly always closed, in a closed position. So when the air passes through, they're not really getting much movement from the false vocal cords. That's primarily due to damage, but in a typical like healthy person, you have the ability to move and open your false vocal cords through practice and again training. There are some singers who use it stylistically to like do that growl or the raspiness when you hear in gospel music. Like they'll do that loud. I can't do it to save my life, but I think you kind of get the idea. Like the deep growl, you can actually, it's audible. You can hear like the crackling. Like that's what the false vocal cords do. It does take time. Sorry.
Should we not use the false vocal cords?
I was just about to say it's something that you can learn to do safely. I wouldn't, as you're starting to learn to sing, I wouldn't use them or try to use them, because they do trap the natural sound, like the full flow of air, and they will kind of distort what your actual sound is. I think until you know what your sound is, you shouldn't attempt to learn how to use your false vocal cords. Just because you don't know what you can do, you don't know what your abilities are, and you might not know how to use them properly as well. It's just the safest option to do what you naturally do. If you don't have a rasp, then you don't have that problem. But if you do maybe talk with a little bit of a rasp, then that's something that you can explore to get them constantly open so that you can hear the true sound of your voice. I think I answered the question. I hope I answered the question. Let's move on. Okay, so if I just quickly, I think I can show you the diagram.
While you're getting your diagram, it just sounds to me like the wheat and tears, the true vocal cords and the false vocal cords are growing together in the same voice box in the same church. And
I mean,
problematic.
I'd like to think that the tares will learn how to become wheat because you do want to be able to eventually use both. It's just that it's safer to be able to just use your true vocal cords, learn how they operate first, and then start to develop stylistic vocal cords after that, after you've got a good solid foundation for singing. Okay, I think we're ready now. Okay, I think on the screen you can still see the posture, alignment, breathing, action. That's just something that I like to use for myself to help me remember when I sing. I just abbreviate it to PBA. So I think posture, is my posture correct? Am I breathing in posture? And then I begin what I'm about to do, which is action. Let me see. There we go. So you've got a kind of demonstration of what the singer's posture should look like. It's a broad way of looking at it, because not everybody's bodies are the same and not everybody has the ability to hold themselves up in that way. But the idea is that you have the best foundation and to be able to support your body for the actual singing and the functions that it involves, because it is ultimately a whole body experience when you sing. If you're singing properly, you should feel it everywhere, like throughout your body. So like you can see in the in the diagram, you want to be able to have your feet together, I guess, hip width, no wider than hip width apart. You don't want your knees to be locked together. You want to have loose knees, just so, I mean, it gets uncomfortable if you're standing with locked knees for quite a long time, and just so you can move more. If you're moving, you're kind of loose. It's just so your whole body feels loose and there's no tension anywhere. You don't want your pelvis to be too tilted forward or tilted back. Just everything in a straight alignment as possible. The easiest way to remember how to do this, if I just quickly stand up, is if you're standing, you just, oh, you can't see. If you're just standing like you normally would, you put your feet in the correct position. Make sure that your hips are not tilted forward or backwards. And then the easiest way to get the top part is to just lift up your arms right up above your head and then let them fall as they naturally would. And you should be in the correct singer's position. So you just lift your arms up as high as they could go, your shoulders are up, and then you just drop slowly, and then you should be in the right position. And that is the posture part of singing, and that gives you the best full body support that you can begin to sing with. Okay, so once you've got the posture, you want to be able to learn how to sing properly and to be able to use your diaphragm in the most efficient way. So you've got, in this diagram, you can see how the diaphragm works. Essentially, when you breathe in, your diaphragm moves down to be able to allow the lungs to fill with air, and your rib cage moves out as well. So the diaphragm moves down to be able to create space for your ribs to expand, and then the reverse happens when you breathe out. So it's basically like a balloon almost. The diaphragm opens up like a balloon when it's kind of like a concave shape. It moves down, and then when you breathe out, kind of goes back up into your chest cavity. So the diaphragm is the part that separates your abdomen from your chest cavity. If I just show you on my person, you're looking right, maybe a hand above your belly button is where your diaphragm is positioned. So I have an exercise to help with that, but after this video, this kind of gives you the visual aspects of it. So you can see when you're exhaling and when you inhale, that your rib cage expands, your diaphragm goes down, and your lungs start to expand. And when you exhale, your diaphragm goes back up into the cavity, your ribs come back together, and your lungs start to shrink again. That's just the visual representation of what happens when you breathe normally. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a chance to get to know your diaphragm. So if you put your hands, one hand above your belly button, and you, that's the easiest way to do it. You say shh, shh. You should be able to feel something happening in your abdomen. Like you should feel it somewhere. Like just a hard, like shh, shh. as something should be happening in this area. And if there's not, then I've got questions. Yeah, so just a shh, shh. That is where your diaphragm is working. That's what the muscle is helping you to support your singing. That's what you want to feel. Maybe not all of the time, but a good majority of the time when you're singing, that's what you want to feel. You want to feel like there's an engine kind of pushing you along, and that's that feeling. Every time you breathe, you should feel your stomach expand. And then when you breathe out, as you have enough breath for whatever you're singing or saying, you'll start to feel your stomach deflate. And then you'll start to feel that diaphragm, that whole muscle situation kicking in, because it's basically contracting to be able to help you push out the sound. That is a little activity you can keep practicing to be able to help you remember where you should be feeling some activity when you're singing. Okay, so right, we've got these 3 titles. These are the things that most vocal tutors say makes up finding your voice. So once you've got the posture down, you've got the breathing down, and you want to start singing, these are, I guess, the stepping stones to be able to find how you should sing and what kind of techniques you should use for your own specific voice type. So the vocal range, I've just used the most familiar 4, even though there's probably about 20 different types of vocal range. That is just a category that kind of describes where the majority of your vocal range sits. It's not a set in stone thing. You can go up and down, be very flexible. You don't have to be in one bracket. It changes over time as well. Then you've got the anatomical factors, which are basically what you naturally do before you do any training. It's what your body naturally does. So if you have a natural rasp, there are different types of things that you can do, different techniques that you can do to be able to make your training experience more beneficial. So if I go through all of them, these are the 4: falsetto, mix, light chest, and high larynx. They are the 4 most common anatomical factors that you'd find when you're trying to sing. So you've got the first one, which is the high larynx. This is when you get to a point in your range when you try to sing where it starts to feel strained. So if I try to demonstrate, you go, like you can only stop at a certain point. That's what we would call a high larynx. If you can't get beyond that point, it means that in your actual voice box, the pharynx and the larynx are coming into too close contact. There's not enough space at the back. So you do exercises to open up the space so your voice can be free as you go up and down scales and be able to expand your range. If we go to the light chest, that's where you have quite a breathy and soft tone. So a lot of people who sing with a really breathy tone, that's what light chest is, what you would use to describe them on a broad scale. And then you've got falsetto, which is it's using your head voice, but not in the best way. So falsetto is the way that we would describe someone singing high without it having enough force or enough of a heavy, like a weight behind it, which is not a bad thing at all. I think it just needs to be done safely, because when you're using that high end of your range, it's very easy to damage your vocal cords if you haven't got the right placement and you haven't got your pharynx open and your soft palates and all of that. It needs to have a very open space to be able to use falsetto effectively. And then you've got your mixed voice, which is basically what most people will aim for when singing. Is so you've got all of your ranges mixed to the point where you can just blend or go seamlessly from your chest voice, which is your natural speaking voice, to your head voice without there being any breaks in between, like when you have your voice crack. The mix is what we call having a seamless blend from the top to the bottom of your range. And that's what most people will work on, so that they can use it in practice and not have any problems with singing in different keys, and be able to change and adapt to songs quite quickly. So mix is probably the best anatomical situation that you would want for yourself as you're starting to learn to sing. You want to aim for having no breaks in your voice. It does take a long time. It's not something that you can just learn overnight. It takes a lot of practice and patience as well. And the way you find the break in your voice is just going up and down the scales, I'd say. Maybe not even scales, maybe just sliding like and seeing how far up or down you can go before you have to change into your head voice or into falsetto, or if you're going down the scale from your chest voice to a growl, basically, without it feeling strained or there being any pain. You don't want pain. If you have pain, stop doing it. That's just, yeah. The prima voce is prime voice. That is what it is. So when we say prime voice, we're talking about where your voice is naturally comfortable, where you feel like you don't have to do as much work. And those are the three different areas that help you find your sound. So once you've got maybe your soprano and you use your breathy tones a lot, then you'll do a scale and have maybe 2.5 octaves in your range on a piano, but you find that there's only maybe an octave where you feel most comfortable. That would be your prima voce. And once you put all of those things together, that's where you can start to explore how to use your voice and where is most comfortable and what kind of songs suit you, things like that. I know that is a lot of information, so I would like to see if there are any more questions on that.
Well, while you're searching for questions, I just want to say that was the most interesting science lesson I've ever had, mixed with spirituality. It was fantastic. It is fantastic, and I know it's not finished. And I am grateful that we are going to have a part 2. I'm sure that there are many questions and there's much more things for you to explore. Why were you not my science teacher?
Thank you so much. I don't know if you can see, Leah, if there are. No.
I can't see any questions. Can you?
No. Yeah, I can on my screen. If anybody does have any questions, I'll see them pop up in the corner. I know I'm talking a lot, but I also don't want to be talking too much to the point where you don't actually understand what I'm saying. So just stop me. I'll stop when I see a question.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, I think I will continue.
Okay. I think it's probably they're private messaging you the questions.
Oh,
Here's one from Denise. How do you know when your voice is warming up?
okay. So it definitely is a personal, like on a specific level, because not everybody's voice works the same. I would say if you feel like you can comfortably, in your prime voice, like when you're singing in full voice, you're not feeling any restrictions, there's no tension. You can easily get up and down the scale, or maybe sing a tune quite high in your range, is quite low in your range. If that feels comfortable, that's when I'd say you know that you're warm. I think when you start to warm up, you usually feel some kind of tension, and eventually, as you start to move things around and feel how you feel, you will start to notice the changes. I think you won't notice until you start to warm up correctly. Because a lot of times we'll just do a few scales, go as high as we can, go as low as we can, but the you have to kind of be more intentional about warming up, knowing exactly what you're feeling for. So, like I said, you want to have an open pharynx at the back of your throat. You want it to be open. You want the sound to be able to pass through easily without any restrictions. You want to be able to hear resonance. So resonance is basically created by your skull. And once the sound is, if your throat is open enough, not your throat, if your pharynx is open enough, you'll start to either feel maybe a buzzing at the back of your neck. When you start to sing higher, in your higher range, you'll feel a buzzing in the back of your neck, and that's how you know that your resonance is there, that you actually are creating good resonance. If you're singing in your chest voice, even if you're speaking, you should be able to feel a vibration in your chest, and that kind of lets you know that you're in the right area. So once you start to feel those things, depending on how high or how low you're singing, that's also another indicator that you are warm. I hope I answered the question.
There's another question. How should one warm up effectively?
Okay, so I'm coming up to that just now. Oh, okay. So basically,
oh, you really are.
Yeah. So I'm sure that if you've ever sung before, you kind of know the basics, that you'll do just a couple scales. If you're in a choir, you maybe will sing in harmonies. The reason why we warm up, first of all, is so, I guess the easiest way to describe it is your voice is a muscle, and just like you go to the gym to warm up, you need to do the same for your voice. You don't want to feel any tension or soreness. Like, for example, if you're about to sing a 5-minute song without warming up, it's like going to the gym and picking up the heaviest weights without any like stepping stones to get there. You want to be able to know that your voice can handle it. For people who have been singing and have had training over a period of years, it's easier to do to just get up and sing, because I know in church a lot of times you'd just be asked to do something on the spot and you won't have time to warm up. But that comes with practice, knowing how your voice works, knowing how to activate things on the spot. So that's why warming up is important. You don't want to have a situation where you don't know what your voice does in certain situations. it helps to alleviate any pain. So you kind of can identify if there is an issue. When you warm up and you are feeling pain, it's a signal to be like, okay, something's wrong. Let's try something else. If you are constantly feeling pain, then that is a real indicator that you need to get it checked out properly, like officially at the doctors, because you can get things like nodules on your vocal cords, which are really dangerous if you just sing through them. So yeah, that's why we warm up. It's to identify if there's anything wrong, and to make sure that we feel the right way when we are singing. So to start warming up, I would say you don't want to spend more than 20 minutes at a time in the beginning, because like I said, it's a muscle and you want to be able to work your way up to bigger things as you progress. So 15 to 20 minutes, maybe every day, is sufficient at the beginning. So you want to make sure you've got your correct posture and full body alignment, and you have done your breathing exercises, and you want to be able to, I don't think I went through breathing exercises actually. No, I didn't. We'll do that in a minute. But you want to be able to maybe just feel, if you hum, and then you can feel where that resonance is coming from. If it's in your chest, if you're singing low, you'll feel the vibration, as I said, in your chest. If you're singing high, you'll start to feel it maybe in your nose or in the back of your neck, and you'll know that your positioning is in the right place. So you'll work your way up in the middle of your range first. You don't want to start high or start low. You kind of want to work in the middle of your range. And then start to increase pitch, tempo, things like that. There's lots of different techniques you can use to warm up. You could just start by literally, to get resonance, you can start by just sighing or yawning, like doing that action, like, oh, like that kind of yawning helps open up the resonance in your head. So if you start doing that higher and lower, you'll start to feel that kind of space created, and you'll feel like you can go up higher and lower as you start to stretch and expand your range. So that's what I would start with when we're warming up. After you've done a few minutes of that, you can start to add songs into it. I'm trying to think of one that we do. I Like the Flowers. I'm sure a lot of us singers, so choir members, do I Like the Flowers, and we do it in rounds and things like that. So with I Like the Flowers, what you want to focus on is the shape of the words. So when you say I like the flowers, you want to make sure your pronunciations are correct, and all the while making sure you're breathing correctly to be able to carry the phrase through. So if I demonstrate, so I'm gonna sit so you can see me, but I'm gonna try and make sure my posture is correct. I'm breathing into my abdomen, no tension or anything. Now I'm gonna take a breath in and let my stomach expand, and then make sure that you create a space before you're singing about what you're about to say. So I wanna I like the flowers, I like the daffodils. Like, you want to be able to have that breath to be able to get you through the first phrase or whichever phrase you're singing. So you want to breathe in, let your belly expand. I like the flowers. Like, that's just example. Make sure your breath is in the right place to be able to carry you through the phrase, and then that your words are in the right place as well. Okay, so I've just kind of gone over that. That's why we warm up. We want to loosen the muscles, remove any tension. It's just good for overall health, and keeps your vocals healthy throughout life. Like, we have our vocals from the day we're born to the day we die, and I think warming up is one of the main ways that you can keep them at optimum throughout your lifetime. So that's why warm-ups are important. Okay. So again, warming up, you don't want to worry about too much how you sound. I know, like, when I did the yawning exercise, it does sound weird when you're listening to it inside your own head, if that makes sense. So we go, oh, like that kind of thing. If you do that inside your head, it sounds strange, but you need to concentrate on what you're feeling, the openness at the back of your throat. That's what you want to feel. That's what you want to concentrate on, making sure that what you feel is the right feeling. Forget about the sound at the beginning. You just want to make sure that you are feeling what you're supposed to feel. Another way to describe the openness at the back of your throat is using the technical term of the palate. So when you open your mouth, you've got at the front the hard palate, which is kind of the ridgy bit. When you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, you feel that like hard bit. And then behind there, if you put your tongue on the back of your tongue on the top, you can feel that softer little area. It's a bit more spongy, has a bit more give to it. That's your soft palate. So when you sing, you can start to feel like a shape. You can shape the back of your throat so that your soft palate is raised at the back of your throat. I think a lot of the way that I like to think about it is not to the extreme, but when posh people speak, their soft palate is raised quite high, and they've got the resonance to be able to speak a certain way. Like, that was kind of quite important. Yeah. You got the space at the back of your throat. You use the soft palate at the very back, and you can kind of feel that space between your tongue and the roof of your mouth. Like, it's kind of hard to describe without me physically feeling somebody to be able to show them. But if you just put your tongue in the middle of the roof of your mouth, you should be able to feel where I'm talking about. Yeah, so that helps you with the resonance, creating a better sound. Another way to do that, a cheat code, is to suck through a straw. I don't have one to hand, but if you suck through a straw, that helps you open the back of your throat as well. That gives you the correct shape for singing too. That's another tip. Okay. So with that, with the opening of the palate, there's something that you can do, exercise to help you raise the top of your mouth, raise your, I'm trying to say it in a simple way. To give you a fuller sound, there's an exercise that you can do. When you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth and go, it's almost like humming, but without your lips. you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth and make the sound mm, mm. And if you do that up and down the scale, that will help you to have a fuller sound when you sing as well. So that's another warm-up thing you can try as you start to explore how to use your voice. And I'll just quickly to how to keep your voice healthy for the duration of your life. There's a lot of do's and don'ts here, but essentially you want to do things that you would naturally do to keep your body healthy in general. So keeping water with you all the time, making sure you're hydrated. If you take medication, pay attention to if it is maybe dehydrating medication, because for things like antihistamines, they are specifically designed to absorb water and toxins and things like that. So you might need to up your intake of water if you have to take antihistamines or any other medication. Avoiding caffeine and alcohol is just something we should be doing anyway. So I hope that that is part of your routine. Practicing good techniques for singing and speaking, not shouting unnecessarily, not trying to talk really loud if there's a crowd, if there's a lot of people, if there's loud music. Don't try and talk above the music, because that will overstress your vocals and you'll end up in pain. Like when people go to concerts and they're screaming and they can't talk the next day, that is why. Take lots of natural remedies. Don't just do it when you're sick, if possible. Try and incorporate them into your regular diet, because it just helps with your overall health in general. And they gives you the vitamins and nutrients that you need to keep the muscles all lubricated and working properly. That's essentially what you need. You don't want anything to aggravate the vocal cords or the muscles, or something that will help you or make you create more mucus, because that coats your vocal cords and you find it more difficult to sing. So that is the main thing. You don't want to create mucus. Use things like steam, humidifiers if you can, to be able to reduce the amount of mucus that comes, because it keeps it quite, I'm going to say liquid, just not sticky, not coating your vocal cords. You don't want anything to get in the way of your talking or speaking or singing. Spicy foods have the opposite effect. They kind of irritate the vocal cords. I do like spicy foods, but I try to limit them when I'm, especially if I'm preparing to sing, because it just adds to irritation. It makes it more difficult to feel the right things when you're warming up. Don't use mouthwash that contains alcohol for the same reasons. It's irritating to your vocal cords and the membranes in your throat. And one of the most important things, I think, is to try not to sing when you're sick. I know a lot of us who sing, and on a Sabbath morning you feel like you can't go on, but you have to, and you just power through it. The best thing to do is not, if you possibly can, because you're just doing more damage to yourself. You need to rest and make sure that you're fully recovered before you try and sing at all, if possible. I know sometimes there's just no way around it and you feel like you have to do it, but if you can, please do not sing when you're sick. Clearing your throat and coughing as well. When I was training, well, I still am, but my teacher used to say to me, if you need to clear your throat, cough. Don't actually do that because it, again, adds to the irritation. So bottom line is, do things that don't irritate your vocal cords, and do things that help you keep them lubricated and rested, essentially. Okay, so once you've got all of these things, it's a lot to remember. You've got your posture in check, your breathing's in check, you've warmed up if possible. That's when you can start to put it into practice. I'm going to assume a lot of us who want to start singing are going to be using mics and singing in church. So these are a few tips to be able to help you be better at that. It does depend a lot on the equipment that you have, because for example, if you're in a church that doesn't have any monitors, things like that, it will be harder to hear yourself. But ultimately, if there is someone that can help you, like the technician who is at the church, just communicate with them and make sure that you are comfortable, because you don't want to be singing and adding to the nerves by not liking how you sound. Just try and be as confident as you possibly can, because at the end of the day, you want to be comfortable and you want to be able to give the message that God's giving you in the best way. So that's just a few tips on that.
Okay. Can I just say something, Bethany? Can we just quickly go back to the do's and don'ts? Somebody asked if it's okay to eat ginger. Is that classed as something that's too spicy for you?
Okay, so in high quantities, okay, so no. I would say if you have it with other things, it's fine. But if you're just having straight ginger, over time it will be irritable to your vocal cords because it is strong. But again, ginger has so many health benefits. It's just when you do anything in excess that problems start to happen. So I'd say ginger, even if you want to do it every day, but just not in a really concentrated amount, that would cause damage.
Okay. We only have 3 minutes left.
I realize. I've got there's just so much.
But do you know what? That's fine, because we're going to have a part 2, Bethany. So that's just fantastic that you have got so much to share with us, and we are eager to hear what else you have to bless us with. So I don't know, maybe we've got room for one more question. So if you've got one more question, then fire away rapidly. If no, then what would your absolute take? Someone said, can we have 10 extra minutes? You can have more than that when we have part 2. That's what would happen.
There's some questions on here that I can see I can answer really quickly, if that's okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine actually, because it looks like we can extend the time, so that's good.
Oh.
So if you want to address those.
Yeah, okay. So scarves in winter. Yes and no. I think a lot of times there's some singers who kind of make it more than what it is. You just need to be warm. Like you need to. It is a protective measure, but it's not something that you have to do. If you feel like you're particularly vulnerable in winter, then yes, wear a scarf. But if you have quite a good immune system and you kind of do practice regularly, warm up regularly, I personally don't feel like it's necessary. But you want to be smart about it. Like you don't want to. It's in winter time. You don't want to just leave your vocal cord, like you've neck exposed unnecessarily. If you can, do, but I don't think it's always necessary. Yeah, that's a simple answer to that. Is there a difference between... Okay, yes. When you're singing, you want to be, okay, breathing, typical singing breath comes in from in your mouth. You don't take it through your nose as much. You go in through your mouth to be able to have the maximum amount of air in your lungs. So when you breathe in through your mouth, that's the quickest, most efficient way to get the air into your lungs, a big amount of air, a lot of air into your lungs at once. Sometimes if you're singing a song that has a lot of words or it's quite fast paced, then you might need to take a sniff through your nose, because opening your mouth to breathe and kind of allowing your whole lungs to expand probably isn't the best thing. But in general, breathing from your mouth is preferable for the best support for singing. Orange juice. Orange juice okay. If it's natural, like literally took it from the tree and squeezed it, then I'd say, yeah, that's fine. But if it's the kind of shop bought stuff that has a lot of sugars, preservatives in, I wouldn't recommend that as a everyday thing, because the sugar content for one, and the preservatives kind of take away the nutrients of it in the first place. So unless I guess it's freshly squeezed or the best kind of orange juice that you can buy, I wouldn't recommend it for like vocal health. Yeah, just because of the sugar content. You don't want to have a high sugar content when you're singing, because that again produces mucus, and it sits on your vocal cords and makes it difficult to sing. I think that's all the questions I can see.
Are there any more? Anyone else want to? What would be the best exercise you would do if you only had one choice?
I'm guessing you mean just warming up exercises. So I think definitely the yawning, because I think that's the easiest way to create space in the back of your throat. So if you create space that you're about to yawn, that is the easiest way to get up and down scales, in my opinion. That's what I find the easiest. If I'm short on time and I need to warm up quickly, that's my go-to, because I know that the space is there and the sound is going to be free flowing. That would be my number one warm-up exercise. I can't see anymore. So, how much time do I have left?
You have 7 minutes.
Okay.
A holy number.
Yeah, let's skip to the end, because basically I've said what I need to say. If we do have a part 2, then I'll
There's no if.
a lot more detail. There's just so much to the mechanics of singing, but essentially If you didn't hear anything I said for the past hour and a half, I want you to understand that God loves it when you sing. Um, he is um, it's always telling us to give him praise, and I don't think there's a better way to give him praise than through song. I know there's other ways of giving him praise, but I feel like the emotional, spiritual connection that you can have in music, to be able to connect that with your love for God and the appreciation of his love for you, comes through singing and expressing that through song, um, especially um, in a corporate setting, because you're supporting each other, you understand, or hopefully understand, the reason why you sing. Um, and ultimately, it's a act of solidarity. You know that other people around you have experienced the same things, can identify with you, and can share your pain, your joy, all of that through music. And that's something that God's given us. And it's such a unique ability to be able to communicate and share experiences through song. And it's no different for your relationship with God. Like, he sings over us. And I don't know if I wrote the text down, where it says that God sings over us we when we worship him. I don't think I wrote it down. Maybe I'll have that in the next presentation. But I just want to encourage everybody who is watching or listening that ultimately your voice is yours to use, and just try it out. If you've never really made an effort to sing before, see how you like it, see how you feel. You're honoring God, so that's all I can say.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bethany, for your dedication to your calling as a musician. And would you class yourself as a minister of music?
I would. Oh, it's hard to, because I don't do as much as I maybe should. It's only recently that I've kind of realigned myself with that side of me. I think before lockdown, I was just going 100 miles an hour. But it's when you can have the time to appreciate the things you have in front of you, the tools and the gifts, the talents that you have right in front of you, that you start to appreciate exactly what you have and start to use it more. So I guess maybe in the future I'll identify as a music minister.
Well, you've definitely ministered to us this evening with the science, as I said, and in the past with your music ministry. So I'm grateful for that. I just want to publicly thank you for that. And I'm not sure if anybody else has any comments. You can just throw them in the chat. In thanks
I hope I know I've been kind of running through it all because I was conscious of time, but there's so much to cram in, and there's just so much to say.
Well, yeah, like myself, Denise is saying she can't wait for part 2. We will.
Can I just show my last slide?
Yeah.
Because,
yeah, we can close on that last slide.
I just want people to see that I put together a small list of people that people can get in contact with if they want further information or want lessons. I've put their Instagram handles down, but if you message me, I can probably just give it to you, like the actual details. But these are people that you can contact for just a few of the areas of music production. If you want vocal lessons, like I was mentioning earlier, those people are there. And a lot of these people that I've put in different groups, they are multifaceted humans. So they do definitely more than one thing. So I would encourage you to contact these people, get in touch, especially with Keith Bazari. He's actually got a company where he has a group of musicians, teachers, tutors who are well trained and are able to help you in so many different areas of music. So specifically, if you are struggling who to go to, I'd say definitely look at Kerber Music, because they've got like a whole team of people that you can choose from, as well as the other people on the list. I personally have experienced all of these people making music, and I would highly recommend all of them.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, so we're going to have you back sometime in August, and we will solidify a date as soon as possible, and everybody will be alerted to the date. So keep your eyes open for that new date, people. Shall we pray to close? And then I will have an announcement afterwards. Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for giving us gifts. Thank you that we all have the opportunity to praise you in a different way. And specifically, we've looked at how wonderfully and beautifully and marvelously you have created us. And we looked at the voice box, the ability to make sound, the ability to praise you, not just in speaking, but in singing, where it's a joy and it's therapeutic and it's healing, and it all should be used to praise you. So we just thank you for that ability, Lord. I pray that people have been inspired to use their gifts or use their talents and experiment in the name of the Lord, so that we can just bring glory and praise unto you. Thank you for Bethany's dedication to want to learn more about how she was created, and not just her but us too. And thank you for letting her be able to display that knowledge in such an understandable and simple and plain way, so that we can just continue to marvel at how wonderful a creative God you are. Lord, I ask that people have been inspired and will continue to be inspired to praise you and to get to know this wonderful God who has created us in this way. Thank you, Lord. Be with us tonight and continue to bless us. In your name, amen.